To access the ChargePilot web portal, you should have received an activation email from the Mobility House to set up your password. If you did not receive an email, please reach out to the Mobility House support team and someone can get you set up with an account. Once you've activated your account and set your password, you'll enter your email address and password and select Sign In. We also have a two-factor authentication option, and if you've selected that, you can go ahead and enter the authorization code here. Click Confirm, and you will be redirected to the home page, which is our dashboard view. This dashboard view gives you an overview of the charging stations at your site and gives you data about what's going on at your site, like your grid limit and whether your controller is online. Let's go through each section step by step. First is the total load. This shows the total amount of power that your charging stations are using at the time you're looking at it, and also includes your building load if you have purchased the dynamic ChargePilot option. This value will update in real time if you plug in a new vehicle, unplug a vehicle that is charging, or if the building load changes. Additionally, this panel includes the grid limit. This limit is set in order to minimize electricity demand charges at your site while still ensuring that your vehicles will be adequately charged by the time they need to leave. You may see this grid limit change throughout the day, but please note that it will always be set below the limit that the electrical infrastructure at your site can handle. If you need to override a limit that is set for any reason, please contact the Mobility House support team. The controller status indicates the status of the ChargePilot controller that has been installed at your site. If the controller goes offline for any reason, you won't be able to see the charging station data on this page, but the physical charging at your stations should not be interrupted because the system is designed to retain its charging logic in the case of an internet outage. If the controller does go offline, our 24-hour monitoring system will notify both the Mobility House support team and selected people at your organization, and we will work to get this resolved as soon as possible. Sometimes this may require unplugging and replugging in the power cord connected to the controller or the Ethernet cables that are connected to the chargers. The next panel on the right shows an overview of all the charging stations at your selected site. The number in the middle indicates the total number of charging ports, and the status of each of those ports is indicated by the color shown in the circle, which corresponds to the key and the count shown below. Dark blue indicates a vehicle is charging at that port. Yellow indicates preparing, which means that the vehicle is already plugged in and the system is waiting for authentication. Dark gray indicates waiting for EV, which could mean that the vehicle connected to that charging station is full, or that the vehicle is not accepting more power. Light blue indicates waiting for load management. This means that a vehicle has been plugged in, but our ChargePilot controller has indicated that the grid limit cannot accept any more charge, so the charger is waiting for load management until more grid capacity is available to begin charging. Green indicates the charging station is available and is waiting for a vehicle to connect. Light gray means unknown and indicates that the controller is offline, so we cannot show any data at this time. And finally, red indicates that there is some sort of error at the charging station. If a charging station is in error, you will get more details about it in our error message section. Here, you will find some initial troubleshooting tips based on what type of error the charging station is sending. Regardless of whether you happen to notice the error through the user interface, our 24-hour monitoring team will notify both the Mobility House support team and selected people at your organization that something is wrong at a particular charging station. Again, we will work to get this resolved as soon as possible. Scrolling down, the next panel shows charging power, which is a real-time view of your charging station load and your building load if you have a dynamic ChargePilot package. It shows about 5 to 6 minutes of historical data up to right now. And if you hover over the graph, you can see the real-time values for the fleet load and the grid limit. This view shows kilowatts, which is power at a certain time, and you can see how the power at your site compares to your grid limit. If you have only selected one site location, you can also display your charging current on the respective phases in amperes. To see this view, click on the A for amps to switch views, and this will show the amperage or current at a certain time for the charging stations. The charging point occupancy shows you the occupancy of your site in percentage for the last 7 days at different time periods. A high utilization means that many charging stations were occupied and may be an indicator that you need to install more charging stations at this particular site. At the bottom of this dashboard page is the detailed information about your charging stations. Here, you'll see a line item with detailed information for each of the different charging stations at your site. You'll always see the charging station status, but when a vehicle is connected and charging to a particular charging station, you'll also see which vehicle is plugged in, the charging power that it's receiving at a certain time, how much energy it's received since it was plugged in, its current state of charge if it's a DC charging station, and what time it was plugged in. In order to prioritize a charger at your site, you'll choose the star icon to the left of the charging station that you wish to prioritize. You can cancel the prioritization by clicking again. The default view will show you 25 chargers, but if you have more than 25 charging stations at your site, you can change the view of the page or scroll through the different pages using arrows that will appear here. For each charging station, you'll see 3 dots on the left-hand side of the page. When you click into the ellipses, there are options to control the charging station remotely. If you need to reboot the charger, you can restart it here. If you are in the middle of a charging session, you can also stop the charging session, or if you need to, you can remotely start a charging session. For the dual port chargers at your site, you can prioritize a particular charger by stopping the charging session on one port. This will automatically allow the second vehicle to start charging. For example, if a vehicle is charging at port 1 of charging station 4, but a second vehicle pulls up to port 2 of charging station 4 and needs to charge right away, you will plug in the second vehicle, stop charging remotely on the first vehicle, and charging will automatically switch to the second vehicle. If you do not stop charging on the first vehicle, the system will wait until the first vehicle has fully charged and then will automatically switch over to charging the second vehicle. Please note that this is a hypothetical example because the charging stations at this particular site do not have more than one port. With our new multi-site view, you can also select one or more locations at the top using the filter. Depending on your selection, our dashboard will automatically adjust and show you the relevant information for all the sites you have chosen. If you choose 2 or more sites, the controller and the charger statuses will be aggregated for all controllers and charging stations at your sites. Choosing multiple sites also changes the data shown in the activities and the statistics section, which we will explain next. Besides this dashboard information, you can also see on this dashboard page the 5 main pages of ChargePilot, a shopping cart icon, and an information icon. We will go through each of the 5 main ChargePilot pages in this video. By clicking on the shopping cart icon, you will go to the Mobility House online shop where you can buy chargers and accessories. Please note that this feature is currently only available in the EU. By clicking on the Information button, you can open a new browser tab with ChargePilot FAQs or Frequently Asked Questions, which will contain useful information about your ChargePilot. That covers everything on the dashboard page. So next we'll navigate to the second icon on the left, which is Activities. The Activities page shows an overview of all the charging events for a particular time period at your selected sites. It defaults to showing all charging sessions for the last 7 days, and a summary of all the charging events that you filtered for is shown in the panels at the top. To change the time period that you're seeing, you'll click on the calendar icon and choose a start date and an end date. In this filter, you can also choose to see a particular time of day for the days that you've selected. Once you've chosen your selected days and times, you'll click Save, and as you can see, the data will update accordingly. This view defaults to showing 25 rows, but you can view more rows using this dropdown or by clicking through the different pages using the arrows. You can further filter which charging events you're seeing by searching for a particular vehicle or charging station at the top. Once you've filtered for all the data you need, you can then download the charging events using the download button at the bottom with the arrow. This will download everything into a CSV file that you can then open on your computer. That covers everything for the Activities tab. So next, we'll look at the Statistics tab, which is the next icon on the left navigation. The Statistics tab shows an overview of the energy consumption and the peak load of your site in graphical form. Similarly to the way we changed the view in the Activities tab, you can choose the calendar icon on the left, choose the time period and the dates, and click Save. You can see that the data has updated to show the energy consumption value for each day in this time period. If you want to see the data more or less granularly, you can change it to show hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly here on the right. And if you have selected a single site, you will see the historical peak load. This view is good for looking at trends over different time periods, where you can see on different days the energy consumption is higher than others. You can also hover over different data points to see exact values. Energy consumption is in kilowatt hours, and peak load and grid limit are shown in kilowatts. All this information is summarized at the top, and this also includes your CO2 savings over this time period. The next tab is Authentication Management. In this section, you will find an overview of all your IDs which are connected to your selected sites. The names you have chosen for the IDs could be the name of the driver, could be the license plate number, or could be the name of the vehicle. When adding an ID, you have an option to fill out a field for additional information, which could be used for cost centers or other specific information to your IDs. Here on this page, you can also see which sites the IDs are authorized for. By clicking the trash icon, you can delete IDs, and if you want to modify your ID, you can click the pencil icon. The blue button in the right corner at the bottom of the page allows you to upload one additional ID or a batch of IDs by uploading a CSV file. If you have questions about the CSV file structure, you can download an example file. That covers everything on the Authentication Management tab, so finally we'll navigate to the Settings tab, which has an overview of a lot of the information we've already seen. The boxes at the top show the total number of sites you have access to, as well as the charging stations, IDs, and controllers at those sites. Below you can see 3 tabs. First is the Site tab, which just shows you basic information about your sites. The Controllers tab has information about the ChargePilot controllers that have been installed at your sites, and here you can change the name of your controller by clicking on the pencil icon. The Charging Points tab is similar to what you've seen on the dashboard page, which has information about each individual charging station. Here you can prioritize charging stations similarly to the way that you can on the dashboard page, and you can also edit the name of the charging station if you need to. That covers everything for the Settings tab. The last piece of information that will be helpful for you is the account information. If you navigate to the person icon in the top right, click into it, and click Manage Account, it will bring up a page that will give you an overview of your user information. Here, you can change your password and see the applications that you have access to. You should only see My Account, which brings you to this page, and Web App, which shows all the information that we just went through, including the dashboard, activities, and statistics. You can also enable two-factor authentication if you'd like an additional layer of security. And finally, here, you can log out of your account, which will take you back to the login page. This concludes our training video. Thank you so much for watching.